Happy afternoon, y'all. We're so glad that you are here. I'm Tanya Samus, owner of Samus Ochoa and CNTRCTY, and we have partnered with TechBlock on this wonderful emerging industry series so that we can bring a lot of knowledge and really rad humans to your ears and your minds. I do want to thank our host and sponsor, Port San Antonio, for having us here today so we can hear it for them, as well as our series sponsors, Iris Technologies, San Antonio Technology Center, and Wells Fargo. I am really excited, and I hope you are as well. Obviously you are, because you're here to learn about aerospace and all of the things that we have going on at Port with all these amazing companies and minds and wisdom that you have here on the stage. I'm going to pass the mic off to my partner in crime, Beto Altamirano, and he'll take it from here.
Thank you, Tanya. Big round of applause to the CNTRCTY team. Can you raise your hand, please, CNTRCTY team? Thank you so much for partnering with TechBlock and making this happen. When I think about leadership, I think about creating the conditions to create those connections that all of you are experiencing today. And that's what CNTRCTY, that's what TechBlock is doing. And it's a wheel of work. Leadership is a wheel of work. And when I think about our economy, and I think about the future of San Antonio, by 2050, you're looking at 4 million people. And in the mega region, you're looking at 8.5 million people. The question is not whether we are going to grow, it's how do we prepare for that growth? Investing in infrastructure, investing in our workforce, education, and investing in supporting and recruiting companies like the ones that we're going to hear from today. These companies are shaping the future of aerospace in San Antonio. About 50,000 people work in defense and aerospace in San Antonio. And that's gonna grow 10% according to Greater SATX. I get excited about the possibilities, but I know that we also have many challenges in San Antonio. So I'm the CEO of TechBlock. And at TechBlock, we're looking at what is the workforce of the future? What are the jobs of the future? But here's the challenge that I see. We're experiencing poverty. We were just having a conversation with Jim Pershbach this week. About 16% of San Antonians experience poverty. Why do I say that? Because I believe that the companies that we're going to hear from tonight, those jobs represent upward mobility for San Antonio. And I know sometimes when it comes to leadership in San Antonio and in Texas, we can get caught in the noise, the drama of politics and all that. But these are the folks driving innovation. And I know there's a lot of leaders in this room also driving innovation when it comes to our workforce, when it comes to our economy. My name is Beto Altamirano, and I'm pleased to welcome you to the aerospace panel. Thank you so much.
Well, good afternoon. It's great to see a full room. Thanks for giving us a little of your time. I'm thrilled to be here to get to moderate a very interesting discussion. In fact, I've talked with quite a few of our panelists. A very timely discussion for San Antonio and where this industry is headed in a way that I think will see it resonate a little bit more in the mass media, where the grandma or grandpa or aunt or uncle will say, hey, aerospace, San Antonio, I get that, and be able to pull a story and an example for someone. I do want to start, I see here in the third row, and recognize our chair of the Port Board. So as an organization, we're governed by a board of directors, and we have one fearless leader that leads that board of directors, and that is Madam Chair Margaret Wilson Analia. Margaret, thank you so much for being here. And because I have the mic and you can't take it from me, I will also give a shout out to our fearless leader on staff, our president and CEO, Jim Pershbach, who's in the back of the room, for all his leadership in this industry. So we have four amazing individuals that are, leading this somewhat nebulous term in industry called aerospace. And I'll talk about what I mean by that. We have Bianca Rhodes, president and CEO of Knight Aerospace. We have Megan Watson, Boeing Global Services site chief engineer. We have Dan Gonzalez, vice president of business development at StandardAero. And we have Mike Smith, Vice President of Defense Strategy at Darkhive there on the end. So thank each of you for being here with us tonight. So we'll get started here. Beto and I have laughed about this, and TechBlock and CNTRCTY have been doing a great job of highlighting different industries across our community and the real impact they have on San Antonio and its citizens. And I laugh when aerospace is put under the header of an emerging industry, and I'm glad some of you laugh too, because the truth is aerospace is part of San Antonio's story. It's part of our history. From when Benjamin Floyd flew the first military aircraft over on Fort Sam Houston in 1902, to the early days of what was Kelly Air Force Base and the work that grew up with the city on this side of town, aerospace has been around and part of our community for over 100 years. These leaders are working in various areas of that sector that truly are emerging. They're applying the latest and greatest that kids today consume on ChatGPT or Claude, but they're applying it to airframes or autonomous traffic or sensors or medical technology within the aerospace sector, or the deep space sector. And so I think the combination of a lineage and historical significance of the industry in San Antonio with the emerging technology that we'll get into today that each of these companies is applying and incorporating into their operations is really what does make this an incredibly exciting industry for the future of San Antonio. And so in that vein, we'll start with you, Bianca. From an elevator pitch standpoint, when I talk about the nebulous nature of a word aerospace, that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. Could each of you give the audience an idea of what your company does?
Sure. So Knight Aerospace builds specialized structures mostly for cargo aircraft. So it's unconventional platforms that are moving people and patients every day. And it didn't used to be that way. But we build structures that are safe, that function with the aircraft, that are built to the same standards of the aircraft. So we don't have to take our soldiers from our hospitals in Germany and fly them to BAMC on the back of a dirty, terrible, not environmentally friendly cargo aircraft or rocket cargo or other different venues like that. So that's what we do. We build specialized structures.
See if this is an easy or hard question for Boeing Global Services, Megan. I think it should be on for you.
I think it's on. Okay. Oh, I'm a loud person, so I don't know if I need this. But anyway, so Boeing, that's kind of a loaded question if I think about Boeing and what we do. This is my 5th site at the Boeing company, so my 5th tour. And what we do here in San Antonio is a lot different than what we do at the other sites, but Boeing's one of the leading global aerospace companies, as most of you may be aware of. We develop, manufacture, we service commercial and military aircraft, as well as the space side of the house. We do have a lot of space work going on as well, and we serve over 150 countries. So we do a lot. We do a lot of technology development. Here in San Antonio, we do a lot of maintenance, repair, and overhaul modification type work that you guys may be familiar with. So a lot of cool things. So
Megan, I'm just going to follow up on that because we use that term frequently in our space, maintenance, repair, overhaul, MRO. I think almost more effectively captured today as modernization. Mm-hmm. Can you talk just a little bit about what that means from an airframe, maybe that was developed originally 50 or 60 years ago? And what does that mean in terms of when you say maintenance, repair, overhaul, and modernization? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, if you take an aircraft that's over 50, 60 years ago and you think about the technology, it usually takes about 20 years sometimes for that to influate into what an aircraft is that we're flying around. Like the development era takes so long. So if you think about, okay, if we built a jet in the 70s, that technology could have been 10, 15 years old. And so we're looking at how do we modernize, whether it's an electronic system, whether it's a new structure, whether it's a new material system or new interiors. How do we make a jet more up to today's standards versus something that, was a standard 20, 30 years ago. So.
That's awesome. All right, Dan, tell us a little about StandardAero.
Well, thanks for letting me be here today. Dave, can you hear me okay? So StandardAero core competency is jet engine overhaul. We are here in San Antonio. We overhaul jet engines for the U.S. Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, and then we're also, interestingly, building the newest engine going into the Air Force's F-15 fighter. We're building and testing those engines here in San Antonio. As a company worldwide, we also upgrade business jets. We also overhaul a large amount of commercial engines that across multiple aircraft platforms. And then we also have sites internationally that do repairs on helicopters and do helicopter upgrades. Here in San Antonio, we also are working on 2 commercial engines. One is a retiring engine. It powers 757 aircraft. That's a fleet that's going to be out of the inventory over the next 20 years, but we're taking that engine until it's completely retired. And then we're also overhauling one of the newest engine in the commercial markets, the LEAP engine, leading edge aviation propulsion engine. That powers 737 MAXs, thank you very much, and also A320neos. What's very interesting about that is that those two platforms are expected to become the largest fleet of commercial aircraft by a factor of 2 over the next 15 to 20 years. And there's only a handful of companies that have a license to repair those engines, and StandardAero is one of them. And we're literally overhauling those just a couple of parking lots over.
All right, Mike, tell us about dropping drones out of tubes.
So Darkhive does, we provide the warfighter with mass, autonomy, resilience, and scale, all at low cost and low logistics burden to DoD. And so what we eventually pivoted to, we were initially just a drone company. We made nothing but drones, but everybody made nothing but drones. So we had to pivot, and it was a smart move. We've been in business 5 years now, and rather than let the market consume us, we pivoted to doing other things as well. So when I talk about mass, autonomy, resilience, and scale, it's components. It's components, it's communications and compute modules. It is all of the things, including a software stack, to manage up to 35,000 systems at once. And so that's how we provide all those different things to the warfighter. All these companies that are crushing the drone industry now come to us to source their parts, brushless DC motors, cameras, things of that nature. That's what we provide. And then the software to manage your fleet. And not only do we do that for aerial systems, we do that for all uncrewed systems, be they on the maritime environment, the land environment. So that's what we're doing. And when Will talks about dropping things out of tubes, we have one system now that we really love. It's called Revenant. You can drop it out of a sono buoy tube on an aircraft, and it can track boats in the Gulf. It can do those sorts of things until manned interdiction can happen. You can put this on a ground tube that looks like a mortar tube and leave it there for weeks on end, and then remotely, whether you be in Washington, D.C. and the Indo-Pacific, you can just get your tablet out, push a button, and that drone will launch, and it will do what you want it to do beyond line of sight, or you can just simply hand launch the thing. So we're very proud of that one system, and then, of course, our components ecosystem.
Yeah, that's fascinating. As you can see, we kind of, aerospace, again, is a very broad industry, and I think what's amazing about the panelists tonight is we have similar but differing perspectives on the industry and the workloads they support. And so I'm going to jump backwards, and Dan, I might start with you here, and then anyone else, Megan, Bianca, Mike, can chime in. If you think about aerospace in San Antonio, I already mentioned the long history and lineage. I know we probably met, Dan, 15 plus years ago. So you've been around through a lot of the evolution, at least in the last 2 decades. How have you seen the industry grow, change, or transform here in San Antonio while you've been with StandardAero?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a broad question. My history here is I am a native San Antonian. I grew up 5 minutes from here on San Antonio South Side. So I literally grew up with watching aircraft fly overhead. I was the kid in the middle of the street playing, when we used to play outside, playing in the street, but stopping to watch the aircraft go overhead and possibly getting hit by a car. So I've always had an interest in aerospace. And like Will said, it's important to remember the lineage that Kelly Air Force Base had here, Brooks Air Force Base had here, Lackland Air Force Base, Randolph, who is the training command for the Air Force, as well as the HR leaders for the Air Force. We've had to weather some significant storms over the years, since I've been on campus. I literally started my career here in 1988. And we've had to live through things like the base closures. Kelly had to survive. How do you take 30,000 people and tell them from one day to another that you're probably not going to have a job? Same thing with Brooks Air Force Base just a few years later. So you literally had, 40,000 people or so looking for the next opportunity. What I credit is, who I credit is the city leaders at that time, our congressional leaders at that time, who had a vision to repurpose these properties, both Kelly and Brooks, to be an economic engine that could never have been imagined prior to the base closure. So I think I credit our leadership team for vision. I credit the leaders of those properties today who continue to invest in new technologies. I mean, we're talking about vertiports here now on campus. We continue to bring new airframes and new engine models to this site. And I do think that the future is going to continue to grow in the aerospace industry here, simply because air travel of multiple types continues to evolve. We've got space technologies being developed literally across the hallway. So that future growth is going to continue as long as we stay courageous and, as you said earlier, make those investments in the training programs and the infrastructure needed to support those new industries.
That's a great answer. I don't know if any of the other panelists wanted to comment on just changing landscape over the last 2 decades. Mike, go for it.
So not only was I in the military, I served for 27 years as a special operator, worked in JSOC, worked all over the place in the special operations community, as did our CEO, John Goodson. He was a Navy special operator. And the thing that the genesis for why he started Darkhive was he was on a mission with his SEAL team, and a drone crashed beyond line of sight over a ridge. And they had to go recover that drone because in those times, all of the data on that drone was held on board the drone. It didn't go to the cloud. It wasn't processed off board. It was all held on board. So it had a significant security risk to U.S. forces. So they had to go and recover drones that would crash, that would get shot down. And in the process of recovering a very low cost, few $1,000 drone made of plastic, they would have casualties on the mission. And that is simply unacceptable to American blood and treasure. So that's the genesis of why Darkhive began. Thankfully now, over the last several decades, we have completely revolutionized the way we do data processing and where data is stored on board aircraft. And so that is no longer a problem. If it gets shot down, if it crashes, we just leave it there, we walk away, no risk to U.S. forces, and no needless casualties.
That's fantastic. And so I'm gonna transfer the topic a little, and I think each of you have a different take on this. When you think about the world of emerging technology and how fast tech is moving, I remember Dan at one of our mini events where StandardAero comes over to present what they do inside their incredible hangars across the street, showcase some augmented reality, virtual reality as a way to enhance training and knowledge transfer from a large subset of the population that are aerospace mechanics that may or may not be retiring at some point in the near future. And how do you train the younger workforce in locations that are not geographically adjacent? And I think each of you has 100 examples of how you're applying that new technology. But Megan, maybe I'll start with you. We look at the Boeing company, and as individuals, we may see Boeing's innovation when we sit down in a 737 seat, and we look at the cabin or the audio-visual inside the plane. But the truth is, most of your innovation happens in places we don't see that successfully fly airplanes in the sky. Boeing company launched a very innovative program of Horizon X back in 2017 to help fund new research and development, joint ventures. Out of that quasi came a company called SkyGrid, who the port currently has an MOU with, working on some really neat space that lives in Mike and Darkhive's area, in terms of low altitude areas of new aircraft and the space of autonomous, semi-autonomous drone technology that right now traditional radar and flight tracking systems just don't analyze the data at below that for 3,000 square feet. And I'm not asking you, Megan, to talk specifically about SkyGrid, but I think Boeing is so big, you may have to limit it to Boeing Global Services, even though you've been at multiple sites. Can you just talk a little bit about how the Boeing company is looking at machine learning, artificial intelligence, augmented reality, autonomous systems, these new pieces of technology that are bound to transform the industry that you sit in?
This is a great question for me. So out of my 20 years at the Boeing company, I've actually spent 18 plus of those years in the innovation arm of Boeing. And so I've been a part of the teams developing a lot of the innovative technologies. And I actually stood up the organization here in San Antonio. That was the reason why I came here 7 years ago, to have an arm of that in San Antonio, to bring these technologies into Boeing Global Services. And yeah, I'm familiar with SkyGrid. It's not my project. I've been in a couple meetings, so I appreciate your description of that. But there's a lot of work we've been doing around automation, AI, data analytics, augmented reality, virtual reality, even a combination of both, right? XR. So we use it to help improve safety and quality of our product. We help to give employees the opportunity for specialized training, especially in the virtual reality realm. There's a lot of things you can't teach people in a classroom without being on product, and so that gives them that realm where you can do that. I'm also prior service. I was a structures mechanic on C-17s when I was in the Air Force, and I brought a lot of those lessons and things I wish I had when I was a service member maintaining jets into my career at Boeing, of how do I make this better for our service members and our touch labor doing these jobs. And so we use AR to, how do we get people, our experts, 3,000, 4,000, 10,000 miles away, right there next to the product when we're working through it without having to fly. COVID made that very challenging, and so we reached into our pockets of AR, and how do we augment that, right? How do we say, we can bring you, but now you're gonna do it through goggles on a WebEx, right? Or how do we analyze or use AI to take all the data of work we've done all these years and make ourselves smarter, so we're not recreating the wheel, we're not reanalyzing the same thing we've done 12 times, trying to speed up that process, making ourselves smarter. We do have the curves of people retiring, new folks coming on. How do we transfer that knowledge? So AI is helping to teach those newer generations of, this is what we've done. Let's just not try to go spend 10 years doing the same thing we already did, unless we're trying to improve it. So there's been a lot of work in that. We work heavily with Horizon X and and all those different groups on. We have maps, we have mechanic apps, we have quality and safety type tools we're using. With the AR side, we have applications being developed so that you can use AR and to reach into a product and see where NCRs are inside products. So there's a lot going on, right? How do we make our quality team smarter and gathering data, right? So building digital twins, all that, right? So Boeing's heavily engaged in that. We're trying to progress to move ourselves forward and making our people safer, our products safer and higher quality and just more efficient at what we do. Mm-hmm. So thank you.
So Bianca, I'll ask you that same question in terms of emerging technology integration. In order to provide potentially life-saving care to a patient amidst a very old aircraft that you have retrofitted with a very new operating room, what does that look like in terms of application of the latest and greatest tech to what is traditionally an old airframe?
Yeah. So, it used to be that if a soldier was injured, you had to stabilize him on the ground before you could put him on an aircraft. And just the change of being able to put him on the aircraft and treat him on the aircraft as though he's in a pressure, a regular hospital room, better than a hospital room, better air changes and all this. But COVID changed our business too. The world recognizing that a virus could be weaponized all of a sudden changed everybody's perspective, not just with the experience of COVID, but telemedicine changed dramatically. And so now knowing that we can have whatever kind of patient with whatever kind of acuity on an aircraft, and some expert somewhere can treat that patient expertly. That's just amazing. That never used to happen, and now that's a super reality. We also took things like AI and cyber and all these different things that were individual factions or interesting little pockets, and now they're all coming together. Now we see all of that coming together, and aerospace has become a real meeting place for all of those different disciplines to come together and enhance. And so when you think about drones and AI and cyber and telemedicine and all these things, they're all coming together as we speak. I think in our lifetime, we're going to be shocked to see just exactly the leaps in technology and the ability to save lives, treat people, and get people everywhere faster. One of the things that we've done that's super exciting is we built the first cargo container for rockets. And we did that for suborbital flight, because now we know that you can take whatever cargo you need in the world in 1 hour which is amazing when you think about humanitarian assistance or war or disaster relief or anything like that. So we built the first container for that. But now we're designing something for reentry. And when you think about what has to be moved that never was thought about before, what do we need to move in an hour that changes the whole dynamic of conditions on the globe and unifies the globe in a different way that's ever been done before? The possibilities are just endless and super exciting.
I mean, Bianca, your answer right there is, I think, at the core of the innovation of Knight, in that you saw a challenge in another industry that you applied to your expertise knowledge within aerospace, and now you're saying, where could this solution impact others that are needing the same sort of parameters of transportation? So that is incredible. Dan, I'm going to go to you on the emerging technology front. I'm going to tell a quick story. I think what excites me about this industry, and I started with talking about we're going to see this industry more and more in the news, is that, like, AI, those two letters are used all over right now. And if we have so many kids come into this incredible venue that was built in this brainchild vision of our CEO, but bringing a little metal music and a little gaming and a little science immersive STEM museum and food and beverage all together under one roof to attract people to this side of town and expose talent to the opportunities across the campus, opportunities from companies like these. So if I ask kids, what do you know about AI? Well, they all know something about AI. They're talking to it daily. They're very familiar with it. If I ask them, what do they know about StandardAero? Usually they don't know what the question was that I just asked. And Dan, I mean, Bianca has been incredible. At times it's a little difficult to get a bunch of 8th graders onto the Boeing site. But Bianca and Dan are frequently on the receiving end of ask from Paco and I to bring kids into their sites. And I will tell you, if you bring a group of 8th or 9th or 10th graders into the StandardAero hangars and you walk them down as I very generally describe it, Dan, the process of completely exploding a jet engine down to all the separate pieces and then rebuilding it so that it'll stay on wing longer than when it came off the original manufacturing floor. Kids' minds are blown. They're excited. They didn't even know this was a career, and the opportunities to apply things they care about, gaming, virtualization, artificial intelligence, data analytics, into this sort of exciting career really gets their mind turning. So I think that's the opportunity for the industry, and a company like StandardAero has it. Sometimes it's not easy to show every kid what that opportunity is. So Dan, you're doing a lot of innovative stuff. I'm going to save a talent development question for a little bit later, but can you talk about Standard from your modification overhaul of jet engines, how you're looking at this changing technology landscape and applying it into your operations here?
Yes, and back on that touring of high school students or grade school students, one of the most challenging set of questions I've ever received on a tour was from one of the 7th graders that was with you in the tour, I think it was last summer, who questioned why we designed the shop the way we did. And he actually had some very good points. I forget his name. But I left that session going, oh my goodness, that's a 7th grader who's giving me some good things to think about. But StandardAero takes a lot of effort, and we invest heavily in industrial engineering and mechanical engineering to design factories for a specific performance. When we started the operation here in San Antonio, at Port San Antonio, 1999, we took over an engine facility that was used for the last 40 years by the U.S. Air Force, and we completely redesigned it. We removed just about everything that we had in the factory and designed the factory in a cellular configuration. And we designed it for a specific speed, for high degrees of control, and that allowed us to measure how much space we really needed to develop these repairs. And then we placed the repairs in logical locations around the floor. And again, we're talking about a 550,000 square foot facility. We took literally 2 years to design and implement a completely new configuration. But the end result was we had a shop at that time with that workload that was dropping the turn time from an engine from literally years to just a couple of months. And again, with a high degree of control. Today, we continue to collect a lot of data when we repair engines. And with our engineers, and we actually have a group of engineers that collect maintenance data for over years of time, and they assess the data, and they're able to determine primary failure modes for that engine, secondary failure modes, tertiary failure modes. And then they're able to for each engine, determine when we rebuild it with these new specs, how long is that engine going to last? And what do we anticipate that the future failures are going to look like? We call it predictive maintenance. And it is heavy into big data analysis. We do elements of machine learning. We do digital twins as we try to simulate how an engine is going to perform in the future. Actually, we have a couple of folks here from that team who are standing in the back, Dave Crowley and Dennis Moore. That's what they do, is they develop these maintenance models for our customers so that not only can you predict how an engine is going to perform in the future and estimate when it's going to fail and why it's going to fail, but once you can take that data and add it to the other engines in that fleet, they develop a tremendous amount of Weibull analysis. They string these Weibull analyses together to create a model. And once that model is created, we can give to our customers an indication of, we can tell them this is what we did to your engines to repair them. This is what we expect the life on wing to be. And if you really want to get good, we can pre-position future parts based on the failure modes and the wear anticipated for those engines into the future. So you can literally hit a demand signal for the supply chain years in advance of what's being done. So the use of data analytics, machine learning, digital twins have really worked well for us. And I'll tell you, in our facility, we overhaul the 2 oldest engines in the Air Force inventory, along with building the newest engine in the Air Force inventory. And those 2 of the oldest engines have green readiness levels. And what that means is there's more engines in stock than are really needed to fly the operation. Now, that's a good position to be, and I can tell you not every engine fleet can say that. So to have that for the 2 oldest engines in the inventory is I think a testimony to how well these digital analytics work.
And Mike, lastly, from a Darkhive perspective, and I might tweak the question a little bit, less about integration of new tech, but a lot of what you do is on the bleeding edge of the actual physical devices themselves, and drones and parts, new technology. What are you all looking at, from battery technology to data analytics to signals assurance if you're flying something long range disconnected? Like, what are those areas of technology that you're eyeballing in the space you sit?
So for me, this one's very exciting. I wish I had this when I was a Joint Terminal Attack Controller calling in airstrikes. I had to carry 5 different radios on me, on my back, on my utility belt. I had antennas coming off every bit of me. I had data links that would allow me to talk directly to the aircraft, Link 16 and whatnot. What we're doing is so I also had a moving map display and the Android Tactical Assault Kit on my body armor. I could fold it down. Half the screen was video downlink from a fighter or a bomber or a drone, and then the other half is my moving map that has all the military symbology, all of my targeting data. Everything is all fused together, but bottom line, between batteries, radios, heat, I couldn't even carry my own food and water because my whole pack was nothing but radios, batteries, and all the support requirements for that equipment. But what we've done with the device that I would wear on my chest, now we can take everything that all those radios that I did, and it fits in a sleeve that you slide the phone into called a symbiote, and now all of those radios are integrated into that symbiote sleeve. They're no longer all over my body. The size, weight, and power reduction is significant, and everything is contained right here. And so the ability to do all of my AI edge compute, the ability to talk and integrate with disparate systems, be they manned or unmanned, it's all right here now. So that is an incredible game changer for the warfighter, and that's something we're really excited about.
It's a fantastic example of how technology has driven more efficiency and effectiveness from the warfighter standpoint. All right, so transitioning away from operations and technology just a little bit. When I think about the core, and I usually did this and I forgot to do it, show of hands, Who has been in this building before, in the Boeing Center building? All right, this is a friendly audience, and so I won't give you the full pitch, but at the core of what we're trying to do down here, it's not about real estate. Real estate is the tool, and you may see that, and that may be the flashy part of it. It's about fundamentally connecting people to opportunities, and those opportunities are with companies like these, and how do we open kids' minds and at the base level educate kids that the opportunities on this campus, whether they live 2 minutes from here or 30 minutes from here, those opportunities are for them and they're accessible. So let's talk a little bit about talent, workforce development. It's our belief that sure, we need to continue developing the campus in a very smart way and increasing amenities and building a very sticky environment that talent likes to be in. But if we can provide each of you the talent you need to grow at the speed you need to grow, we'll be doing pretty good. And so maybe if I could just get each of your takes on how you envision your operations, what type of talent you're looking at, and then we'll talk a little headcount in a minute. But Bianca, if you could talk a little bit about how you're approaching talent development from the Knight side.
Sure. So that's been a challenge for us. We're a very small business, but almost by definition, when you're a really small business, every person really, really, really counts. Like we have departments of one person, or 2 people, or 3 people. So if somebody's gone, like it changes the whole dynamic for the whole company. So we're very, very careful about that. We started last year, right now we have 100 employees. We grew by 50% last year. So we added 35 employees last year. Right now we have 100 people. I have 20 jobs open. Like that's huge for us. And to source those people, to find the right talent. But the big challenge is exactly what you said, Will, is getting the word out, opening the aperture for all of these students to understand what's available to them from an educational standpoint and from a career standpoint. I talk all the time about most of our employees, or a lot of our employees, live right around here. They had fathers and uncles and grandparents that worked at Kelly Air Force Base. They grew up with that nomenclature, yet they don't know what's happening at the port. They don't know the careers that are available to them. They think aerospace is about being a pilot. And so we've got to go in there and teach them about all the different possibilities. And that means bringing them through our facilities. That means going out and speaking to them, and that means just connecting them on a bigger and bigger basis all the time. I told this story yesterday, but I had some big boys from a big company that does not have a San Antonio presence, an aerospace company in Fort Worth, whose name I won't mention, but they were coming down to visit on a Friday, and they said, we have some business on Friday, and we'd like to come by and see you after we're finished with our business. I said, that's great. So when they got to our facility, I said, what are you doing in town? And they said, we were visiting at Hallmark University. And I said, Hallmark University, really? They said, oh yeah, we recruit more of their graduates than anybody else. And they ship them to Fort Worth. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, we can't afford to lose our talent to you guys. You don't even have a San Antonio presence. So we've got to do a better job of keeping our talent in San Antonio, opening their eyes to all the possibilities here, connecting industry with education, and just doing more and more to introduce students to the possibilities right here in their own backyard.
So Megan, maybe you could talk a little Boeing. I will say that Bianca mentioned 100 people, and look, aerospace is big in San Antonio, and it's growing. Arguably, I'd put it up against any other single sector in terms of the next decade and the growth potential here. So if you're also comfortable just talking, Megan, in terms of how you look at talent, well, what's the size of Boeing San Antonio?
Well, I will say it has grown significantly over the last 7 years from when I first showed up, as well as the work statement. But we're probably sitting around 5,000 people in San Antonio.
Big number.
Probably a little over 7,000 in the state of Texas, because there's a few other locations, right? But it has grown significantly. We have challenges hiring and retaining talent, right? Especially a company like Boeing and the different opportunities that you have within your career. Hence I've moved 5 times, right? To try out different parts of the company, learn and grow and challenge myself. And it's hard to get little kids on our site, so we apologize. We don't want somebody to lose a finger or something, right? Big, heavy stuff going on. But we do have high schoolers on site working through some programs and learning how to be mechanics. So that is going on, so that's really exciting. I think workforce development is a huge place that we all need to get involved in and create those pipelines, whether it is touch labor, whether it is bringing in engineering or finance or supply chain or any of the different support functions to which we have to run our business. I've been at different sites. I've seen different activities going on with high schools and that, being involved in the STEM is really critical. And I know Boeing does a lot of involvement with STEM and with robotics and the stuff at, the rodeo with agro-robotics. So I think it's critical for our future to make sure we are growing that pipeline. And, when I do hire, it's really, you talk about keeping talent. I'm not from San Antonio, but even when I was in Charleston before I came here and I was hiring for the team when we stood up, my first question is, why San Antonio? Why do you want to move to Texas, right? Because I want to make sure who I bring are people who want to stay, And most of the people I hire, like, well, I grew up in the Rio Grande Valley, or I have family in Houston, or I have something related and tying me to Texas, right, to why I want to go there. And so that's really important to me to make sure I can bring talent and retain them. And so that, if you find locals, they want to stay. I've hired folks out of UTSA, right, on some of the programs that we've had with them. We've, done a few different rotational programs. So it's just going out in the community, advertising what you do, teaching people, showing them, and then getting integrated into the different, whether it's a high school, whether it's the universities. I spoke at an event at Texas A&M a couple months ago at a STEM event and opened their eyes to Boeing and aerospace, because it was a mechanical engineering event, right? And so just sharing the experiences, sharing with the women. It was a women's event, to be transparent of, it's okay to have a different background. It's okay to challenge yourself. It's okay to make different decisions than you think, right? And teaching our kids, hey, it's okay. You may not know what you want to do today, but you'll learn in a job if you go and challenge yourself and be curious, right? So we always want to hire people with great attitudes and that are curious and just want to make an impact. So, thank you.
So Dan, from a StandardAero perspective, and if any of you follow all the great content that Paco puts out that is designed first and foremost just to champion and tell the story of what's happening on the campus by our customers, a big part of that is their investment in the community and the people that live here and the workforce they're looking to develop. To selfishly, of course, sustain their operations and grow it, but to ensure that both Bianca and Megan have talked about kids here know the opportunities that are here. And I think StandardAero, Dan, you have a really neat story, more in the recent last year or two, how you've developed and put your own resources into a program to organically grow talent from the local community. I'd love for you to talk about that, to show the level of commitment that a company like StandardAero is making in San Antonio. Not that they're not asking for support and resources and coordinating with all the amazing partners we have across the city that do workforce development, talent transition efforts, but they're also saying, we're going to go worry about ourselves and build internally what we need to ensure the viability of the operation long term. So I'd love for you to talk about that, Dan.
Sure. So much like we just heard, StandardAero is in growth mode. We've doubled our workforce also within the last 5 or 6 years, and we think we're going to continue to grow based on the work that we have now and some wins that we're anticipating here in the near future. So workforce development, as you were saying, is also near and dear to our hearts right now. We cast a broad net as we try to look for the next generation of workforce. We have partnerships with local tech schools, with Hallmark, with others. We have partnerships with local universities. We have partnerships with the city of San Antonio. We are currently hosting about 27 interns this summer, 10 of which are high school interns, and they're coming out of a local high school program called the Alamo Academies, which is a subset of the Alamo Colleges. And what that program does is they allow high school juniors and seniors to develop skill sets in engine and airframe overhaul. And then in the summers, they're eligible for internships. And what that does is it gives us the opportunity to bring young students into the workforce, shadow our technicians, learn what it takes to become an aerospace technician. And then when they graduate, hopefully they're still interested in being a technician and we can make them an offer. College interns, we cover the gamut. We have, I met with the group last week, and we have engineers, we have finance representatives, we have folks that are in our marketing organization now. So 16 college students, interns from across the country, actually. But we also have a great partnership with the U.S. military. Again, the Air Force Training Command is at Randolph Air Force Base, just by the northeast side of town. When someone from the Air Force retires, we'd love to have an opportunity to discuss with them the next aspect of life that they're interested in. We have about a 30% veteran workforce today, and we're always looking to grow that. Because if you can get a trained technician coming out of the Air Force or Navy, they're just that much further ahead. But if you don't have those skill sets, we have developed a training program, which was what Will was alluding to, a technician training program where over a 12-week period, we will hire an employee, put them through a 12-week period, and show them what it takes to overhaul an engine. Half of the course is in the classroom because there's so much paperwork and reporting and systems that have to be used to collect repair data. But the second 6 weeks is actually disassembling, reassembling an engine, and then also utilizing the different tools required for those engines. So that has been a very successful program for us, where I think we've graduated over about 250 technicians, and we always have cohorts in line progressing through the year to fill next year's needs.
And Mike, maybe talk about Darkhive, maybe a slightly different take on it, but as you grow and scale a company, how are you thinking about talent pipeline?
So we're a head count of 50 right now, and of that, a third are military veterans. So we strongly embrace the DoD Skill Bridge program. I myself was a DoD Skill Bridge to Darkhive. I really got my feet under me there, and then I started out as the chief of staff and then was able to promote into the vice president of defense strategy role. So we strongly embrace Skill Bridge. So being that this is Military City USA, and as Beto alluded to earlier, 48 to 50,000 aerospace professionals, including those coming out of the military who have combat experience, who have really given everything they can to the country. They have a very strong aptitude, so we leverage, as you said, sir, those separating and retiring from the military. Give us a call. We'll give you a chance with the Skill Bridge program. And then we have a strong pipeline with UTSA, Incarnate Word, Trinity. We really try to recruit from those academic institutions. Unfortunately, it's tough to get engineering talent, so the majority of our engineers are unfortunately off-site. They're in Silicon Valley, they're in Boston, even up in Austin. So we really want to grow that engineering talent pipeline right here if we can. So if we can do that from the military community, we will. If not, hopefully those 3 academic institutions, and if not, it's just gonna be a fight that we'll continue to fight.
No, that's great. Man, if I'm Department of Defense, Department of War, I'd bring you back up to testify about the value of the Skill Bridge program, Mike. Hey, Mike, I'm gonna go back to you real quick, because I think this is a question more uniquely suited for Darkhive, but when I think about the work Beto's doing in the whole ecosystem around TechBlock of trying to encourage, support, nurture early stage startup founders, you didn't have this category, and I think it was mentioned before on stage in our discussion, of dual use. You know, a company that may be developing a technology that has the ability to sell into the federal government or the public sector, as well as have commercial viability. And there's, you know, good and bad that comes with being a dual use company. But I'd love to hear you talk about, just for a little bit, the journey of Darkhive, launching a venture-backed product company in the aerospace sector here in San Antonio, and kind of what you've seen. I know John founded the company, but you've been there long enough to kind of know the good, the bad, what you see from that venture-backed startup standpoint in San Antonio.
Well, first off, thank you, Alamo Angels, which I know a lot of folks in this room are a part of that organization. Thank you very much. You are huge to Darkhive's success. Beto especially, and so we're grateful for that. Not only did we just close our Series B, we got an Army App-Fit Award to the tune of $49.7 million, and then we closed our, thank you, sir. And then we closed our $30 million Series B round led by RTX, and of course Alamo Angels was a part of that as well. So we're very grateful for that, but the pivot, there were some hard learning points there. So as I said earlier, we started out purely a drone company, but we risked getting swallowed up because everybody makes drones now. And so it took John's passion project was, again, what I alluded to earlier, the genesis of Darkhive was to build, very affordable drones that would not risk American blood and treasure. Well, eventually the market just wouldn't bear his passion project, so the ability to pivot quickly and identify where the gaps and seams are that maybe a prime defense contractor doesn't want to get after those things, that's where you're able to step in. And so John was able to say, hey, components is where it's at. Communications and compute modules is where it's at. Let's start to pivot into those things, and that really is why we got that AppFit award, is because the Army saw the good in the communications capability that we were offering, that symbiote I talked about earlier. So I think that's the thing for any startup, is you have a tendency to hold on to your love and your passion project too long, and you don't pivot. You allow your company to start tumbling down the mountain, and eventually it's just going to get swallowed up. So pivot quickly, fail quickly, go on to the next thing as soon as you can, and when it gains traction, go all in. So that's what I would say. But yeah, thank you to so many people in this room.
Yeah, absolutely. So now kind of looking ahead a little bit from each of our panelists, my personal belief, we're really well positioned. And we have the ability to be honest in dialogues like these about where are we weak, where do we need to build, where do we need to grow. I think when I see groups, and Center City Tech Block have done an amazing job of bringing them together across the city, like this sitting here, I always look at, well, what's the message to those sitting in the audience? They have an interest one way or another in coming and hearing about the topics. And so if you had to look at the next 5 to 10 years in San Antonio as it pertains to your companies and the industry as a whole, what do we need to focus on to help each of you?
I think being present and being aware of what's happening in the community, like participating in those conversations. Like everybody thinks that somebody else is talking to the schools and somebody else is communicating with the students, but we each have a role to play in that. So I think it's just being here, being present, being aware. There's a lot happening in San Antonio. We're getting ready to host our first space summit here in San Antonio. Huge. This is a great opportunity for our city. I mean, space in Texas is huge. What Elon Musk has done for the state in that area is an amazing opportunity for us to take advantage of. And there's a lot of companies like mine and all sizes in between that have a little niche and have a little role to play. So we just have to do our homework and figure out, how do we get in the game, and how do we play, and how do we win? And I think we have the opportunity to do that in San Antonio because we have all of the ingredients. We have the military, we have the expertise, we have the port, we have all of this infrastructure that just needs to be put together, and all of us need to participate.
Megan,
How
what do
do
you
you
think?
follow that, right? Oh my gosh. If I think about the next 10 years, I've been here 7. Am I going to make it another 10 years? I hope. I love San Antonio, right? It feels like home to me and my husband. So I think, partnership, working together, learning from each other and leveraging each other's skills and talents. We're all not great at everything, but if we have a team, we can all work and partner together to make it successful. I also think, all the innovation that's coming through, you talk about drones. I mean, Boeing's doing drones, and that's so exciting to me when that first started happening, right? And it's part of our AI initiative. But, I'd love to come talk to you about what you guys are doing, right? Maybe there's something, we can learn from that. I just think, partnering, learning, having the workforce development aspect of it, being transparent, being just a support system to each other, I think is critical for the continuing growth of our industry here.
I would add that I think we need to continue to water the seeds that have been planted, whether it's in the space exploration field that's evolving here in this facility, whether it's the development of the vertiport here on campus, whether it's attracting newer workloads in maintenance, repair, and overhaul where we live. I think we just need to continue to water those seeds so that, I think Beto said it earlier, invest in that infrastructure. But as we expand and we try to grow the industry, I think it's also important to recognize that it's a competition. In my job, I get to travel to different states. I get to travel to different aerospace companies, different bases. And I have seen some states that are very good and very aggressive at trying to expand their aerospace fields, and they do so with incentives that are sometimes look crazy, tax abatements, free land, cash. So it can get a company's attention, and I think as we think through that, if there is a seed that we need to continue to water and support and nurture, that we insulate it so that it doesn't leave.
Will, I've already pestered you enough, but I'll let everyone know this. The FAA is very strict on drones flying in certain airspace. It's difficult to get above 400 feet. You can get a waiver to 700, but then you want to get above that because you want to optimize your systems, your cameras, your everything else. So we would love to be a part of that venture with SkyGrid here to fly in your airspace up to 4,000 feet to be able to optimize cameras and compute modules and everything else for both line of sight and beyond line of sight communication. So anybody that would offer us the ability to fly without too much FAA trouble, that's really what we need.
By the next time we do one of these panels here, Mike, we're going to have that figured out. Those are all great answers. And I think, it's mentioned by multiple people about collaboration and ecosystem. And I do think if you expand past San Antonio and look at the Central Texas ecosystem, I think there's a lot of people in this room that I know have been working for a long time. In fact, Bart Bond's in the audience, who's been up in Austin since I met him a decade ago, who's launching a defense accelerator in San Marcos to try to bridge the capabilities of both those markets and attract international startups to understand what does this Central Texas ecosystem have. So I think that collaborative ecosystem that we feel really strongly about, and I know each of you are a part of, really positions us for growth. And so I have some great questions from the audience, but a last question from me to each of you. And sometimes I ask this and it comes across wrong, and so I figured out how to tune the question. If you thought about someone within each of your operations, could you tell the audience something really cool that someone working at each of your companies gets to do that they may not know about? Sometimes we say, tell me something cool you do. It's like, well, I drop drones out of tubes. But like if you get it to the personnel level, and it could be someone in your admin or IT or data science area, it could be someone that's hands-on tooling work. It's an interesting way to think about the neat, innovative stuff that's happening that the public doesn't get to see in your companies.
Yeah, so I'm super proud of that fact because this is how we differentiate ourselves. It's hard to attract and keep these employees, but we tell them, and it's true. One day you could be working on a hospital room that's going to save lives. The next day you're going to be working on a cargo container for rockets that's going to be tested with SpaceX. And we design through manufacture everything in our doors. And when we finish a product, we drive it over to the flight line and we see it fly off. It does not get any better than that. To be involved soup to nuts in something so innovative and so versatile each and every day is like the most fun ever. I love what we do.
That's awesome.
I'll
Megan?
start with something pretty basic and then I'll go to something else. But if you stand here in San Antonio and you watch one of the warfighters deliver to its customer, that's what excites most people and why they want to come here, right? That's the coolest thing when you're a part of a situation where you bring a jet in that needs to be fixed and it sits around for a couple of years because something happened to it, and then it finally delivers back to our customer. What's cooler than that, right? Supporting our warfighters. But if I think about when it comes to technology, we do a lot of cool things. Like I said, I brought a whole organization here to bring new innovative ways to run our business and operate and make jobs easier. So like you said, our job's different every day. There's a different problem every day. I say if you like to be MacGyver, our group is what you want to be, right? So I coin us as the MacGyvers of Boeing. And I found that really cool and very fascinating, and why I've done it for so long. Is every day you're solving a problem and you're helping someone's job be easier for them and better and more efficient, and then you watch the jet fly away with them, right? So I think that's pretty cool. But I mean, if you want to know specifics, like, we have a VR paint system to teach people how to paint, right? That's a technology that's been, being developed for years, and we have one of those. And our, C-17 paint guys get to practice on it and learn how to paint. So when they paint our product, they know what they're doing the first time, right? So that's pretty cool, right? So.
It's a great idea.
For me, I'd offer, first of all, I like my job. Last week, I had the opportunity, and Will mentioned this earlier, we get to tour groups through our facility. We get to tour. Last week, we had a tour of high school students come through, and we had a group of high school teachers come through last week, or 2 weeks ago, that were part of a summer externship program where these teachers, through the summer, visit different industries to learn about what's available so that they can feed that back to their students when the school year starts. But last week or 2 weeks ago was Aerospace Week, and they visited us. And it's just the wow factor, like you were saying, when you have an opportunity to show a student or to show a teacher what you do and how you do it, and they go, wow, I never knew that existed. That's a good feeling. Hopefully that would be communicated back to their students. Just a couple of weeks ago, one of our high school interns, I was touring a group, and we stopped by our jet engine test cells, where if it's a really cool place to be when you see a jet engine and afterburner. One of our high school interns was shadowing our test cell operator and got to shift a stick so that the engine went into afterburner, which was, to her, a fantastic feeling. I've never been able to touch that, but it was an incredible wow that stuck with me and will probably continue to stick with me. Hopefully I'll get to do that one day.
Yeah, damn, we got to talk about this private afterburner tour. I didn't know that was on the table. All right, Mike.
So for us, there's an engineer that he gets to just do different propulsion systems to launch the drone out of the tube, whether that's pneumatics, elastics, explosives. So he gets to constantly play with toys and launch weights out of, different weights out of this tube and see how far they go and what's the best bang for the buck, if you will. So that guy, to me, has the coolest job.
I mean, any 11-year-old's dream, what you just said. That's what I can do as a career. It's exactly the type of hidden gems within our aerospace sector that get kids so excited. Well, thank you all. So Tanya and Bianca, keep me staying on time. I think we're doing pretty good. I got a couple of questions because Center City has had the audience text in some questions. We might have time for maybe one more after this. So I'm gonna open this one up to the panel and see who wants to take it, if not multiple answers. So given aging aircraft and the future state of aerospace, how do each of your companies generate new ideas and decide how to invest capital resources? It's kind of a two-part question. Generate new ideas and invest capital resources for the future.
I'll talk the first half.
New ideas.
Capital resources, that's a finance thing, and I don't coin myself to be a finance expert. I just follow the process. But, generating new ideas. So we do have a lot of employee involvement on our site. They have meetings on, for each of the programs or in each of the, sectors and, each program or each section of a program, because some programs are very large and they have different work areas. We'll bring in different functions to come in and support, and they generate ideas of how to make their work better for them. Or what's eating my lunch today? How, and can you help me? Because this is killing me every day and my job is super hard, and if you think about some of the technology that's being invested is how do we depaint aircraft better and safer for our people and our product, right? As well as the environment. Or how do we remove, we have old aging aircraft that we have so much corrosion on. How do we do that in a better manner? Or, how do we extend the life of our aircraft? Because if you look at how, government situation over the last years, like how do we make our aircraft last longer? And so, we have to get into our think tank, and that's where people need to be courageous and raise their hand and just give ideas, because you never know which idea is actually going to stick and do something better for us. So, thank you.
I'm also not a finance guy, but the area where StandardAero grew up on was an older engine maintenance. For the last 30 years, we've been working on, the oldest engine in the Air Force inventory, but a lot of our engine platforms are legacy. But over the last few years, the company, and this is not me, but the company has decided to work away from the oldest engines in the inventory to work on the newest engine in the inventory. So again, the newest commercial engine on the LEAP engine on the 737 MAXs we're now overhauling. We are building, again, the newest engine in the Air Force fighter inventory. And in 2022, I think it was, there was a partnership announced where the next supersonic commercial aircraft is in development. And the new engine to power that supersonic commercial aircraft, StandardAero partnered with the Symphony team to overhaul, when it's available, when it's on the market, we'll be overhauling the newest supersonic commercial engine here at Port San Antonio. So that's kind of cool. Again, those are strategic decisions specifically designed to move us to the front end of the supply chain.
For us, it's a bottom-up approach. So we go to the special operations community, reach out to our friends who are now in very high places because we've retired and they've kept climbing the ranks. And we ask them and their troops, what do you need? And as you can imagine, soldiers and special operators come up with some really sci-fi ideas, and they'll give you a bunch of stuff that there's no way you could afford to build it, but we try to have a compromise. And yeah, that's how we kind of come up with some of our clean sheet designs. But yeah, special operators, bottom up.
So I am a finance girl, but it's a very easy thing. You don't have to be, because as we just talked about, the customers will dictate what they need, and that's where the money needs to go. You need to solve the problems that are out there. So we have an easy way of doing that, but our products are really agnostic to what platform. So we're building products that leverage the aircraft, whether it's a 50, 70-year-old C-17 or C-130. We're building structures that can work on that. But we have a contract with Embraer on the newest cargo aircraft, and our products can use that too. So our customers want to be able to use our products on any one of their platforms to leverage that aircraft and get it to work harder for them and run more different kinds of missions, which is what we're in the business of doing. We're in the business of changing the equipment set so they can run a mission very quickly and very efficiently. We have product in 39 countries, and we've been doing it for over 30 years. We're experts in what we do, and they can trust us to build a product that's gonna perform with the aircraft. And so we have an easy way of doing it. We're not as concerned about the age of the aircraft because we can meet the needs for any of them.
Absolutely, and you mentioned the word customers, and in fact, I think you've talked a little bit about it already, but next question from the audience: who are your customers?
Everybody. I mean, as a Boeing company, we have, commercial, right? So all of you guys who ride our aircraft, us as employees are customers of it. Our military is customers of it. We have product in over 150 countries, right? We have, different services buying our product to support their missions overseas. So in my opinion, it's most everyone, unless, they don't want to fly Boeing, so.
I don't know any of those people, Megan.
And for StandardAero, it's a very similar answer. The customer base is broad, both on the military side, in the commercial side. We overhaul engines across, 15 or 20 different models of aircraft. We support foreign militaries, partner nations as well. So I can't even estimate the number of customers that we have.
For us, military, government agencies, and law enforcement.
Perfect. And Dan, okay, here's one specific just for you. A question was asked: is StandardAero rebuilding and repairing power generation to turbines?
So we actually do have an organization that generates ground power. They take derivatives of the engines that we overhaul and convert them to be ground power generators. So there's an explosion occurring here in the San Antonio area for data centers. And the data centers need power, and they need alternative power. And some of the engine models that we overhaul are being looked at to be used at some of those data centers. So that's an emerging market. That's something we're trying to get ahead of. It's moving pretty fast. So yeah, there's definitely opportunities for us to do that. We are in the market today. We're trying to expand that as we speak.
And then we'll end up, and then Tanya, let me know if we have time for any questions from the audience. I really like this one as a potential final question. So what are the positives and negatives of San Antonio's aerospace industry's reputation from the places you sit? And the question was phrased, the people you deal with both upstream and downstream that aren't located here. But I think broadly, do you think San Antonio's aerospace industry's reputation is outside of this market?
So, one of the things that I discover all the time, because I do a lot of economic development with the city and, with industry, and the differentiator for San Antonio is that people like living here. Like, one of the problems that the federal government has, they have a lot of employees here. They don't want to move once they put them in San Antonio. And the reason is because we have a unique culture that is such a community. And I will start with kudos to Port San Antonio, because the community that we have built, I mean, these are my partners. I work with Dan all the time. I work with Boeing all the time. This is great. Like, for somebody to have the opportunity to partner with these companies, and the port does such a great job of facilitating those relationships, putting people together, connecting them, and making them feel welcomed. And I think that's the biggest advantage for San Antonio, something we should continue to capitalize on.
You're here.
And once again, you make me follow that. I agree with everything she says. I find San Antonio to be very positive, and I find the culture to be very positive, very welcoming. I am an outsider. The only other time I was in San Antonio is when I was at Lackland at boot camp, and I can't tell you how much I liked or disliked that. But it did teach me a lot, and it was in February, so I didn't die of heat. But, I think the partners are great we have here. The port's really great. The relationships we have with everyone in this community, on the Boeing side and on the partnership side, it's just been great and very welcoming. And like you said, once people come, they never want to leave. And so I think that's unique, especially, like I said, I've traveled to 5 different sites, and this has been my favorite site thus far, and I don't plan on leaving, right? So I just think the environment here is just very, welcoming, and it's growing and it's changing in a positive way that's going to continue to bring that in.
Yeah. I'll echo that. I was talking to Margaret before and was telling her a story about our business environment in about 2016. Things were a lot different than they are today. We were not in growth mode at that time, but we had a CEO come in and talk to city leaders, talk to the port leadership, and said, San Antonio is a place I want to be. He said, I've got sites all over the world, but nobody treats us as well as San Antonio does. Nobody has the vision that San Antonio leadership does. And it was that meeting that was here in 2016 that literally was allowing StandardAero, and it was an enabler for us to turn that around. So, yeah, I agree with everything you said from my CEO. He understood that as soon as he got to this site.
For Darkhive, San Antonio is a aerospace center of excellence. So you train pilots here. You train the Air Force Special Warfare Enterprise here. You maintain both civilian and military aircraft here and overhaul them. So we think the confluence of all those skill sets, this is absolutely the center of excellence for aerospace.
That's good. I'm going to quote you on that, Mike. That was well said. Well said. I agree. Okay, those were some good questions, but if you didn't get your question in, we got time for one more from the audience. It's got to be a really good one to finish it off. Yes, sir, in the back. We're bringing you a mic here.
I had a question. There we go. I had a question about data centers. So, they consume vast amounts of natural resources, our precious water, precious land, energy, and so on. Companies like StarCloud, SpaceX are working to demonstrate that orbital data centers can prove as a viable alternative. I just want to know from the panel if anyone has broached the topic of orbital data centers.
It's a really good question to finish us off on.
Yeah, I'm not aware personally if that's come up.
Yeah, I'm not either. It's a great question, and I'm not really sure.
I'm going to answer it, but in a non-answer way. But when you talk about that, a lot of times we're faced with a challenge within one of our customers that we are in charge of explaining it to students. What are these problems companies are trying to solve? And it's a segue to make sure that I invite you to check out our immersive science museum next door to Area 21. But in there, you'll see some Tesla coils. And if you're familiar with Tesla coils, not Elon Tesla, but Nikolai Tesla, original prove out of what could be called wireless power generation. transferring of power wirelessly. So when you think about what may seem like a pie-in-the-sky idea of orbital data centers, or could you build a 30-mile wide satellite with autonomous robots using additive manufacturing that sits in low Earth orbit and grabs enough energy from the sun and wirelessly beams it back down to power a country? People lose you because they think, well, that's impossible. And the truth is, we have every piece of that technology stack. It's just putting them all together in the right way to make it happen. And so it's a non-answer to your question. I'm not aware of that happening right now, and that's probably just my limited view. But I do think there's a lot of companies on the campus that are looking at big challenges like that deal with natural resources, growth in population, and it's thinking outside the box. It's taking someone that has decades of experience in aerospace to go solve a problem that someone in the medical space has. Oftentimes we see computer scientists, cybersecurity, intelligence professionals on our campus want to engage those in biology or chemistry. They need brains that are focused on the same type of problem but in a different industry to help them think creatively about it in theirs. And so I think that is, again, a non-answer to your question, but what excites me about the ecosystem in San Antonio is continuing to push the boundaries of bringing disparate groups that normally wouldn't interact together, and that's where a certain magic happens in solving critical problems. And I'm going to turn it back over to Bianca. I will say, and I mentioned very quickly, I know most of you have been in the building, but Area 21 next door is open till 8 p.m. If you're a secret gamer and you want to go run some Call of Duty or Fortnite, the LAN center is open. You can go try out our machines there. And I know that Tanya and Bianca might have a couple of more drink tickets. So the event doesn't end here, but I'll turn it back over. But first, I'd just like to say, Bianca, Megan, Dan, Mike, thank you so very much.
Thanks for having us.
Awesome. And can we give a round of applause to Will as well?
Yes.
There was one word I heard time and time again, and it was a wow factor, and I think this panel was a wow factor for me. My mind is currently blowing in the best way, so I just want to thank you all again for your time. They do not just dedicate their time for our event, they dedicate their time for briefing calls. We're bothering them constantly for promotion items, so I just want to thank you all individually. You've been such a joy to work with and honor again, I'm learning so much. But I just wanted to also just speak really quickly on behalf of Center City. We're so thrilled that you guys are here. Our next event is July 29th, so if you guys want to get your phones out, that's a Wednesday, same time, 4:30 to 6:30, and this will actually be at the Tobin Center at the Carlos Alvarez Theater, and we are going to be discussing arts and education. So we talked a lot about STEAM today, or STEM, and this will be STEAM. So we're really excited for that conversation, but I'll pass it over to Beto to close us out.
Thank you, Bianca. Wow, what an awesome conversation. Seriously, I enjoyed it so much. What about you guys? Yes? That was weak. How was it? Good? There you go. Look, this is the last installment of the Emerging Industry Series this year. We did it for 5 months. We visited every corner of the city, twice here at Port San Antonio, UT Health San Antonio, the San Antonio Technology Center, and people showed up. We had over 500 unique attendees. And we're gonna do it again in 2027. Yes. But I need your support. Please spread the word, tell your friends, join our membership at TechBlock, satechblock.com. Visit the Center City website as well, centercitysanantonio.com, and join us in 2027 as we venture into the new series of the Emerging Industry Series. Again, thank you so much, and thank you to the Center City team. Thank you, everyone.